Okay, good evening. It is time to start our regular meeting with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here. Mayor
Absher.
Here. Would you all join me by standing and pledging allegiance to the flag? Normally about this time of year, we gratefully issue a proclamation recognizing the importance of adoption. And with me is Jeff Shore, who's the internal counsel, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what your title is for DCFS. And he's usually the person that asks us or reminds us that it's that time of year. And so I'm glad to read this proclamation tonight. Whereas the city of Marion recognizes the importance of giving children permanent, safe, and loving families through adoption, and thanks to thousands of adoptive parents across the state, 16,958 children have found permanent homes over the last decade, including 1,813 children in the last year alone. And currently there are 1,400 children awaiting adoption across the state of all ages, backgrounds, and needs. And whereas to help these children find permanent, nurturing families, the local courts of Marion, Illinois will open their doors on Friday, November 18th, in celebration of National Adoption Day, to finalize the adoptions of local children and join other organizations to celebrate all adoptions. And this effort, along with similar celebrations in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, will offer children the chance to live with stable and loving families and encourage other dedicated individuals to make a powerful difference in the life of a child through adoption. Now, therefore, I, Michael Absher, Mayor of the City of Marion, Illinois, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do proclaim Friday, November 18th as National Adoption Day in Marion, Illinois, and in doing so urge all citizens to join me in this national effort to raise awareness about the importance of adoption. So Jeff, this is for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And would you like to speak?
Just for a second. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jeff Shore, Supervisory Regional Counsel with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. This is the 4th year that we've done National Adoption Day. It's going to be held on Friday, November the 18th at the Williamson County Courthouse. About an hour ago, I got an email. It looks like we are going to max out 18 cases, somewhere about 23 to 25 children that will be adopted. So thank you very much, City of Marion, Commissioners, and Mayor for supporting us. I will tell you, it's the only fun day for me working for DCFS. So thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us item number 4, our public comments section. Would anybody like to address the council this evening? Okay, Mr. Johnson.
My name is Jimmy Johnson, James Edward Johnson. I'm a 68-year-old, honorably discharged Vietnam era veteran, and I've been a resident of Marion since, the 50s, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to try to get this as quick as I can, because he times me with 5 minutes usually, like Donnie Gaddis. Am I timed?
Yep.
Okay. The Republican Party in Williamson County, Illinois, won every seat in the November 8, 2022 midterm election. That means that the Williamson County Board, the State's Attorney's Office, the Williamson County judges, and law enforcement are all controlled through the Masonic Lodge who ran their candidates, which means there are no checks and balances, and that anyone, the worshipful master of the lodge, can, as they desire, be railroaded to jail, prison, and the Illinois Department of Mental Health by Freemasonic controlled lawyers, judges, law enforcement, and psychologists. This means anyone who is a Christian or non-Freemasonic resident of Illinois or the United States could potentially be railroaded with trumped-up charges to remove anyone the lodge deems undesirable to their secret society. Only Christian and non-Freemasonic Americans are sentenced to jail, prison, and mental institutions where Freemasonic sheriffs, wardens, and directors are subject to the orders of the worshipful masters of the Masonic Lodge. The proof is in the pudding. Only non-Freemasonic United States citizens are now in the Williamson County Jail, Illinois Department of Corrections, and the Illinois Department of Mental Health, Human Services. Any and all investigation does and or will prove this. Masons are slapped on the hand for serious criminal activity, including murder. I say this because in almost 250 years, a Freemason has never been given the death penalty for murder. Because of this unjust bias, the death penalty is no longer biblical and should remain abolished in Illinois and throughout the United States. If the truth were known, it's the Masonic Lodge controlled by the Luciferian Freemasonic Communist Ashkenazi Jewish banking elite that has allowed the drug trafficking in America to destroy the minds of our youth. Methamphetamine is causing 80% of the crimes in Williamson County. Last month, I asked Freemasonic Democrat Sheriff Benny Vick what he thought about now Freemasonic Republican Sheriff Jeff Dietrich. He had nothing favorable to say about him. Wonder why a Democrat Shriner sheriff just handed over the reins to a Freemasonic Republican sheriff. Most residents of Marion don't even know that Shriners are Freemasons. No Democrat ran for office in Williamson County. I think that's interesting. There are hidden agendas from the public, from the secret government that on all levels controls the United States government. There is an enslavement process going on, primarily by the Illuminati, Jesuits, and Roman Papal families from the Vatican. Keep in mind the European Rothschild family is worth near $600 trillion and own 80% of the world's gold. Anyway, no Democrat ran for Williamson County Sheriff because I believe the Masonic Lodge wanted Jeff Dietrich for control of law enforcement. The Marion Police Department and the City Council, or the City Hall here, is also controlled through the Masonic Lodge. America's enemies are closing in for the kill. America's enemies are closing in for the kill. Inflation, war, overtaxation, immigration, man-made diseases, starvation, etc. have been created by design to enslave the earth for Lucifer, Satan the devil. Lucifer, the light bearer, is the god of Freemason revealed at a 33rd degree level. Locally, taxes are being increased to deprive Christians and non-Freemasonic Americans of home and property from delinquent taxes. Masons have all the good paying jobs here in Marion and Williamson County and everywhere else by design. And from their inner circle, first dibs on homes and properties from delinquent taxes at the courthouse. This is all my belief. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we will move to item number 5, which is the consent agenda. Consists of items A, B, and C with a host of sub-items. Anybody on the council want any of these removed from the consent agenda or voted upon separately? Anybody from the audience want any item A through C or a sub-item removed from consent and voted upon separately? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'd second that.
Okay, any questions on these? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Okay, Commissioner Barwick, we've got a big one here, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. We're on item 6A under new business, fire department.
We have a firefighter that is retiring after 34 years of service to Marion, total of 41 years in the firefighting service. Chief has a few things he'd like to say first.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, all the family and friends that came to show Jim your support. I wrote down some notes and I wrote down some accolades of Jim and some different fires that you all find interesting. First of all, with Jimmy, when you hear certain names, you attribute certain things to it. When you hear I was gonna say Jimmy Rescue, but Jimmy Escue, and that's what they called him at the fire station. You think fire department. Jimmy never met a stranger. Everybody that knows Jim, most of them all got a hug. And Jimmy's probably kissed and hugged half the kids in Marion, maybe all of them. Jimmy always was ready to help someone in any way. Jim truly loved the fire service and the brotherhood of the fire service. Another thing about Jim, he wanted to take care of people. Bottom line, it didn't matter if we were on the worst wreck you'd ever been on. Most of the time, a lot of times we know people. Jim's been there all his life. He was there to help them, and it showed. I've got a few calls and accomplishments here for Jim. I wrote some of these things down because I knew I'd get his family teared up, and it's happening to me, so I apologize. Jim's years of service are 41 in the fire service, 81 to 83 in Burton, Michigan, 84 to 86 Lake of Egypt, 86 to 88 Anna Fire Department. And then from 1988 till the present, he served here at Marion, which he had several positions and did different things at the fire department. One of, he was the union secretary and treasurer for 33 years. And his notes and his logs were impeccable and still are to this day, and everyone will agree he never missed anything. Jim also he was head of the MDA, muscular dystrophy boot drives that you all remember we used to do on the square. Jimmy, he was the head of that. He was the NIMS compliant officer, which some of you city officials have had to take those awful classes. Well, Jim was over those. He took very good care of it. Some major fires and calls that Jimmy has been on over the years. First of all, these aren't in chronological order. Me and Jim sat down, we just wrote down some calls. He went to New York in the disaster in 9/11. He was one of those guys that went there. And they were there, I believe, a week. Civic Center fire. I believe, Jim, you were on duty that night, correct? The Civic Center? You wasn't on duty?
Called in.
He was called in, which they were there for days. Fire at the Marion High School, Jake's Tire and Muffler fire, the Blankenship fire, the fire we had at Biassy fire down the road here, Fowler Heating and Air, the fire we had at City Hall, Stanley Office Building fire, which they've now tore down. Jimmy conservatively responded over 8,000 emergency calls, and I promise you that's conservative. Jimmy also, when there were funerals for the line of duty death firefighters throughout Southern Illinois, to name a few, Kevin Reveal, Corey Shaw, Cody Van Fossen, Shib Miller, Jimmy, along with others, always attended their funerals and paid the proper respect. Jimmy was a member of the Hazmat Division 45 team. Another call he had went on was the flood of 93 at Cape. I wrote that down at the very end. Jimmy he's worked under 5 different fire chiefs: Charles Heidi, Anthony Ranella, Jack Reed, and Jerry Odom. With the fire department, Jimmy's done it all. Jimmy took very good care of the firehouse and the equipment like it was his own, probably better. Jimmy, thank you for your years of service to the city of Marion. Excuse me. Most of all, thank you for all the lives you've touched Steve might want to say a few words.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I told myself not to do this. This is the best job in the world, and it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Marion for these past 34 years. And I'm gonna miss it, but I love everybody. I'm gonna miss you all, but I'll be back. But I just, again, thank you everybody for being here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Lieutenant Escue, on behalf of the city, I want to congratulate you for your retirement. I hate to see you leave, but I'm glad that you're able to walk out and enjoy retirement. Thank you. On behalf of the city, we have a plaque that we want to present to you. This says, "The city of Marion recognizes 34 years of service, Lieutenant James Jim Escue. Thank you for your service. Enjoy your retirement, November 14th, 2022. Again, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate this. Again, thank you all for being here.
With the retirement of Lieutenant Escue, this brings us to 6B. I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Police and Fire Merit Board to promote Ben Wilson to the open lieutenant position vacated by Lieutenant Jim Escue's retirement.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay?
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay.
I'm gonna present this certificate of appointment to Ben Wilson. He's a 14-year veteran of the fire department, and he'll now be acting lieutenant, and he'll do a great job. All right, man. Good? I'm good. Good to see you.
Are you gonna put the fence up or not?
No, we'll talk later. I'll talk to you later. Take care. See you, man. Stick around.
We'll just wait for a moment, let this clear out, so we can hear. It's hard to hear with everybody out there. He doesn't look that old. Yeah, so- Oops, back on. We'll move to item 6C. Mr. Burrow.
I'd like to make a motion that we would approve the purchase of a new F-150 from Vogler Ford for the amount of $43,665, which will be reimbursed to the city by the Foreign Fire Insurance Board.
Second that.
Any questions? What happens to the old Ford? Was it Ford you drove?
Yeah, the white one, it'll go to assistant chief, be assistant chief's truck, and then the oldest one we have will just strictly be used for hydrant maintenance. We have an O2 F-250, They'll just be hydrant maintenance. Yep.
And the one you're driving now is 12 years old, right?
Yeah, it's an 11.
You know, these old Fords never really die, you know that, right?
Well, they're not dying. We have fleet consistency now.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Okay. Item D is related to C, so my understanding is we're borrowing this money, making payments, but being reimbursed by that foreign fire insurance
That
board.
is correct.
It'll be set up on an annual payment, Mayor. But the interest rate was the same, so we'll pay a one-time payment, which will be paid by the Foreign Fire Insurance Board immediately.
Do we have to submit that to them each year to pay it, or is it gonna be automatically set up? Is there something that the
It'll be
treasurer needs to do?
automatic. It'll be, Steve will call me when it's due, and it'll be automatically paid.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we would approve ordinance 3848, entering into a loan agreement with First Southern Bank for the purchase of a new 2022 Ford F-150, which again is going to be reimbursed by the Foreign Fire Insurance Board.
Second.
Any questions on 6D? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yeah. Item 7A and B, I'm gonna ask to table, but I want to explain this. I know the commissioners know about this from late Friday night after we published the agenda. Wendy has been working on this for a while. You may or may not recall. Some months ago, we sort of had a rash of sudden applications for billboard, electronic, and otherwise signs. And it was quite shocking, and we just sort of blunt force put a moratorium on it until we could research our options with this a little bit better. Wendy's been working on that, trying to craft something, frankly, that isn't too limiting, but hopefully assuages our concerns that we think there's plenty of them at this point in most places. That being said, late Friday afternoon, like I said, after we sent the agenda out, Wendy came across some more additional legal research that she's asked for some more time. So for the moment, this moratorium's still in place, but I suspect strongly we'll have something by the next meeting. Is that your goal?
That's my goal. I hope so.
Okay. We're really trying to get this right so we don't have to amend it. We benchmarked a lot of other towns with this, and it ranges, my goodness, all over the place. Everything from a one-pager like what we had to a 38-pager, single-spaced, that just hard to even understand. So our goal is to come up with something that is very easy to understand and gives the code enforcement official a lot of discretion to enforce the council's will as to the aesthetics and the frequency of these things, and particularly to protect residential areas in town from having these things pop up. So we need to take a little bit more time and get that right. So that's what I'd ask, is to table items 7A and B, which moves us on to item 8A. It's a residential TIF 1 agreement. Cody, is there anything of note about this that you want to bring up? It's just a home that's been purchased. Is this a renovation or tear down? Okay. So, again, this is in residential TIF 1, so this has worked with this developer several times, I believe, at this point, and so grateful for that. Back here, Mechanic Street's got a lot of action. That's wonderful. So I'll make that motion to approve ordinance 3841, a residential TIF 1 redevelopment agreement with Bryn Lane Properties LLC for 902 South Mechanic Street.
Second.
Okay, any questions on this TIF agreement, this ordinance? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Okay. Item 8B, is another property on Midway Court. We actually agreed months and months ago to purchase this property, but it's been subject to some family matters that had tied that up for a while. This is one of the duplexes on the east side of Midway Court, and that's my motion to purchase that duplex, 1232-34 Midway Court for $30,000.
I would second that.
Any questions on this?
Well, the only thing I would like to add, Mayor, here is, and we have been, just, I guess, doubly sure that we get the proration of the taxes taken care of. I didn't see a agreement in the packet, so I wasn't able to kind
Do
of.
you have that with you? Do you have this one with you? I know you had a whole stack of stuff when
I
you
do
came
not
upstairs.
have this one with me at the moment.
Okay. Have you created this purchase and sale agreement yet then?
I believe I have,
Okay.
yes, and yes, absolutely, we take care of it.
I mean, we always do, I just wanna make sure that,
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8C. This is down on Jefferson Street next to the
Pickers Paradise?
Pickers Paradise, little building that's been vacant for a long time. JM Vision LLC is Jeff Mayer, is the initials for that. He's the one redeveloping the Goodall building here. I'm not 100% why, but he's had his eye on that little building for a long time. He's talked to Cody and me about a lot of different ideas he's having for it. But that too, I think, was tied up in some probate or something like that for a long, long time.
Yeah, and the heir, had to wait until she turned 18 to sign.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, apparently that finally happened. He was able to close on that property. He's eligible for a hub TIF redevelopment agreement. And looking forward to seeing what ideas he's got to go in that building next. That's my motion to approve ordinance 3844, a hub TIF redevelopment agreement with JM Vision LLC for 110 East Jefferson Street.
Second.
Questions on this? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Okay, item D and E are related. Glenn, do you want to come tell this story, or do you want me to try to tell it? About the W?
You go ahead.
Okay. So, back in 2000, is that right? Was it 2000, 2002?
2001, 2000, somewhere in there, yes.
The city worked with the owner of the improvement, I should say, on city land. This is kind of a weird situation where the WPS, Wisconsin Physician Services, built their building. Unfortunately, after COVID, they've vacated and working from home and are no longer using that building. So the city, we don't own the building, the city leased the land 20 years ago, plus or minus, for $1 a year if they would bring so many jobs, right? So they paid the lease up front for 99 years. We didn't get any money out of that from then. Glenn has worked very hard. He and I have both been out to the building with several people, including state reps, senators, and such, trying to get that building with new life. It's a great, great facility. It really is. Wonderful, big building. And the owner of it is actually going to donate that building to the state of Illinois, Central Management Services. And they're going to be locating several of their agencies inside of that building. So in order for us to effectuate that, I think they're planning on closing by the end of the year.
Yes.
For us to be able to effectuate them doing that, one, we have to assign the current lease, which is what this item 8D is. And then Glenn and I negotiated, it was a question of whether they were going to continue to try to lease the property and us demand they have a certain number of jobs like it did before. It was a lot cleaner, and actually the state suggested they just purchase the property from us. Make something a little bit clear, there's actually a little bit more. If you do the 12-acre property times 12.5, that does not equal 131,875. There's a detention pond on that property that's essentially unusable.
It's 2 acres of detention pond.
Yeah.
It's nothing but a headache, really.
Right, so we've not charged them 12.5 for the detention pond, is how that math turns out.
It's the 10.5 acres where the real estate property is located, and there's 2+ acres for the detention pond.
Right.
They're deeding in the detention pond because the city doesn't want to have to be owner and maintain that pond.
So if they get it, they're just not paying us 12.5 an acre for that.
It's 12.5 for the 10.5 acres.
So anyway, I think this is a great deal for the region, great deal. I'm so happy to see that building get a use like this because it was a quandary. What was gonna happen to it?
And they expect to have at least 150 jobs transferred in there from different areas, which would be a bonus for the city. We now have a building that's been empty, it's gonna be vacated and fully used.
So again, that was a tough deal to put together between the state and the owner and give
Really,
Glenn,
the state did not know how to handle a gift.
they're unaccustomed to getting something for free.
Yeah.
But I give Glenn a lot of credit for being the bulldog that he normally is and staying on that and trying to help figure that out. So thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. So anyway, that's the two-step process we've got here is to reassign or assign this lease so that the state assumes it, and then approving it, the ordinance 3845 directing the sale to the Illinois Department of Central Management Services. So first I'll make a motion to approve this lease assignment. It's in your packet under 8D.
I'd second that.
Okay.
They had 2 appraisals on the building, it was over for $4 million.
I told Glenn if the state couldn't figure out how to take that for free, we're in real trouble. But they did, so we're not in real trouble, we're in good shape. Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Okay. Item 8E then is as I've already described, ordinance 3845 directing the sale of what we will now call surplus property, which was leased property in the Butler Industrial Park to the Illinois Department of Central Management Services for 12.5 a usable acre is the way that I'll put that, for a total of $131,875, and that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Okay. I'm gonna skip over items G and H, move that to the end of the agenda. We're gonna need to go into closed session when that time comes before we consider those two things. There's more information that's come to light that we need. I'm sorry, F? Yes, I'm sorry, F, G, and H. So we'll move on for the moment to item 8I. Cody, you kind of were instrumental in this one, or was Glenn instrumental in this? Do you want to explain this one, Glenn, or is it all me again? Why don't you come explain?
That's the sale of that 10.55 acres to the CMS, Central Management Services, the state of Illinois.
No, this is specialty mine that you worked on.
This is the sale of 9.9 acres to Specialty Mine Services and Industrial.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Come take some credit, Glenn.
I got a call from Specialty Mine Services that were looking to expand. And they're presently located in West Frankfort. And they manufacture products that's basically sent all over the world. And they were looking for expansion, and I showed them the acreage we had available out at the Butler Park. And they were interested, and originally we were looking at 2 or 3 acres right on Middle End Parkway. They needed more than that, so they bought We put in some land behind that. It closed up some dead-end spaces that we had, and I think it was 9.08 acres. And when we finally, I said, you know, I made jobs, he said, as a conservative number, we bring at least 40 jobs. So we negotiated a price of $43,800 for the 9 acres. And that piece of property's been sold twice and people's backed out. We've owned it for 23 years and had nothing on it. Now we're ready to get a nice facility out there with 40 jobs, and I think it's a good deal.
Perfect fit for the industrial park, that
Yes,
outfit.
yeah. It's for manufacturing, which is good.
Yep.
Any questions?
Is that property on Meadowlands still available? That's still part of the city, or is that part of Shorts?
And we still have some acreage to the east used to be a drainage swale through there that's gonna be difficult to sell. East of this 9 acres that we're selling.
That's,
Is this part of Shorts?
this is short, that is Darrell Ross that has put in the,
Oh, this is Daryl's.
yeah.
So this is separate, okay. Daryl's here.
Yeah, we ended up with this weird
Yeah,
puzzle piece.
Originally, it was gonna be like this.
gotcha.
And I said, well, when we landlocked dead end, we'll never get that sold, you have to take this. So we took this, and they closed all that up. And CMS is getting this piece out of
Who
it.
is this?
Is your contact on this?
Who's the person on this one?
Wayne Coffey,
Oh, okay.
he's the guy they deal with.
No, no, Daryl is not too, so I didn't know if they were related.
No, I don't think so. It's interesting
It's
whether
interesting,
they
they
can.
both work in
And
the
they're
mines.
going to be working with the other specialty mine services that's on Pentecost Road.
Okay.
Road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those two will be working together.
Why don't you read that motion since you asked a good question?
Oh, okay. I make a motion to approve ordinance 3849, directing the sale of surplus property in the Butler Industrial Park.
Second that motion.
Okay, any further questions? Another good job, Glenn, thank you. That was a hard, especially the back part of that was a tough piece to sell, I know, so. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick? Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Okay, Jim, talk to us about road salt.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, the winter's coming on us pretty quick here, so a little taste of it over the weekend, so, got before you need to purchase our road salt as we do annually. It's 700 ton, it's through a state bid process, and we're able to latch onto that and you know, do volume pricing, save some money, so, the company that's gonna provide the salt is Compass Minerals at $98.44 per ton. And at 700 tons, that puts it at $68,908. Now, I will say that's about a 22% increase over last year. It was $78, so I guess inflation's got us or whatever, I don't know. But we do have an increase on that. We've seen it higher. We've seen it up $130, I know, since I've been on council. So it's down from what it was a few years ago. So, but still seems high. But anyway, with that, I'd make a motion to purchase the road salt for the contracted amount, which is a budgeted item.
I'd second that.
Okay. Anybody have any salty questions? Okay, that's terrible. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Hmm?
What happened now? Oh, nothing.
Can I have some?
No.
Okay, item 10A. You guys may recall, we had, these lots were donated to us, another feat that Glenn pulled off. Gosh, year and a half ago?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 2 years ago. We,
Can we nominate you for governor?
What's that?
Nothing.
what was the date when we put this original contract in place? This was the deal where we
We do lots,
Yeah.
everybody put their name in it.
matter of fact, Carmen drew this winning tag, remember? Remember when I had you draw the name out of the box? Yeah. So there has not been a lot of activity on these lots, and Glenn's talked to her once, I've talked to her once. She's asking that we extend this agreement. It's optional to do that for 6 months. She's got one prospect that she's been working with that is supposed to be putting their package together, and that's not necessarily a promise of anything. That's just what, other than that, she hasn't been working with anybody else. We can either extend this or go through a process of trying to pick a different realtor if you want. It's up to you guys.
I would go ahead and make a motion to approve the contract extension or renewal with Kenny Kissing with All One Real Estate for listing of 3 parcels of Heartland Professional Park.
I'll second that.
Are they always in 6 months increments? Always?
Most time.
Okay. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 10B is housekeeping measure on the 2023 schedule of council meetings and holidays. Look in your packet. I think state statute or dictates we have to declare these prior to the year starting, so including as part of this where our new address will be once the former First Southern Bank building is ready. I'll move to approve the 2023 schedule of council meetings and holidays. Any questions on any of these? Anybody want to invent any more? Do you know, I don't think it matters much, but there is one typo at the bottom of this.
We can fix that, just let me know what it is.
Let's see. It's and Tuesday, December 26th. I think there's just an extra digit in there, maybe an extra 0.
Okay.
20,000, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't catch that before, but not that big a deal. But
we'll fix that before I sign it and post it.
there are no new holidays this time, right? It seems like every time we turn around, there's a new holiday.
We can add some,
Can we?
we can always add.
I can nominate for you,
What?
so I can nominate for you.
Really? Okay. All right, item. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. I've got something in the wrong place in my packet.
Do we need to vote on the holidays, or is that just information?
I think it was included in there.
Yeah, that was my motion is for both of them.
Holidays and,
Yeah, we usually do it in one
okay.
fell swoop. I don't have this tax levy in my packet for some reason.
It's just an announcement. You're not passing the ordinance yet. There is no document.
Oh, well, that explains not having it.
It's just an agenda item, because this is just the announcement of the estimate.
Okay, so when we, just the $100 thing,
Yes.
that's what we're saying?
Yes.
So there's no, or there
So-
is clarity with this, I'll let
Yeah,
Wendy do it, she knows.
essentially the way it works, is you are required to verbally announce the estimated amount of the tax levy that is going to be put in place. And then 20 days have to pass in order for any public, comment, suggestion, objection, anything like that. And then once that 20 days passes, you can then officially pass the tax levy ordinance, which is the official document that then goes to the county clerk, to be put in place. Obviously, if we were levying taxes like most municipalities, we would have a truth and taxation hearing during that process also, but because we don't levy that amount of taxes, like most municipalities do, we're not required to have a truth and taxation hearing.
Okay. So again, we're announcing that our intention is to do a $100 citywide property tax levy. We could,
Ours is a little different than most municipalities, so.
It's not $100 per house or business, it's $100 total. And if you're wondering why bother, that's a TIF issue, I think, if I recall right, that has to be left in place for TIF districts, and I don't know all the nuances with that, but that's why some people have like 0.000002 is that paying a penny or something like that of the $100. So I'll move to approve that estimate of $100 of a tax levy per 35 ILCS 200/18-60.
Second that.
Thank you, Wendy. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 10D, I know Cody and I individually talked to you guys about this, and a few of you went over to the new city hall to look at this. One of the surprises with City Hall, good surprises, and there have been very few that were bad incidentally, but when they took up the old carpet in the main, what was the main lobby, they found the original marble floor of that building, which is, I presume, 100 plus years old. In remarkably good shape, but dirty and looked like it'd been covered up with carpet for about 50 plus years. So we had them, we found Berry Concrete over in Murfreesboro, is it?
Yes.
Thought they could restore that, and so they did a test spot for us. And it really, who went over there to look at it? You did, and
I went over there.
it looks, I saw it in the dark, I couldn't get the lights figured out, but did you see it all shined up?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the time they refinish it and with all the different steps, grinding and polishing and this, that, and the other, that's what this costs. It's not going through the normal change order process per se.
No, it is.
It is going
Yeah,
through
it
that?
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that sheet.
That's the lead sheet that's got kind of green on it. That's the
Well, somehow mine got out of order in this.
fridge sheet.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I had them in two different tabs. Anyway, after talking with you guys individually and see what you want to do, you indicated you wanted to go ahead and do this. So what we don't know yet is what the deduct will be, right? For the flooring that was, is it like that?
We don't know exactly what that will be, so originally this was all scoped to lay a new floor in there. So
Supposed to
there
be
will be a
ceramic.
small deduct. I
Yeah.
don't imagine it'll be too large, but there will be a small deduct on that.
So that's the key. You got, one of you asked me for that. I told you I'd try to find it. I still don't have that, but.
And they are refinishing terrazzo floors, Berry Concrete is on other levels of the bank. That was part of the original contract though, that's not a change
We
order
just
to
didn't know
them.
this was there,
Yeah,
so.
So this is just the ground level.
this is the main level, walk in the front door and this will be the floor that you enter on.
And really, it's
It's a section.
a
Yeah.
section of
Yeah.
what is now the main floor, because the original bank building, most people have forgotten this, but that's two buildings that are put together, what was Western Auto and the original bank. The original bank was actually pretty narrow. And so this floor, here's a picture of it, and do you have it in your packet? That's what it looks like. Huh? These guys are not very happy,
No.
and they're stretched.
Yeah, I was gonna say that picture is a little even narrower, right?
I think that's Stretch Armstrong right there.
Yeah, squeezed a little.
But it looks just like that once it's been re-shined. It's pretty amazing. So that's one of those little nuggets that was positive that you find every so often. But so I'll move to approve this change order in item 10D to Marion City Hall project to refinish a portion of the original marble floor for $13,656.82.
I would second that.
Any more questions or discussion? If you haven't been over there, I hope you guys go look at it. I really think people will appreciate that nod to the history of that building.
Just out of curiosity, this picture,
Yeah.
am I looking north right now?
Yes.
You are, yeah. So I'm standing at the door. Essentially the front door, looking north. yeah.
You know the windows that overlook, I think that's that up there.
On the mezzanine level,
Yeah, yeah, this one does.
which at that time was the president's office of the bank.
Yeah.
So,
We were in there and
Yeah.
looked at it, out at that, I'm telling you, the building is amazing, it really is.
You're looking south there.
no,
No,
you're looking north.
that's not,
Isn't this the courthouse?
no, that's just a,
That's that's inside the bank.
It looks like the old courthouse.
It does look
You're
like it.
looking at that original vault door, that's what's behind those guys.
Okay, right. I was amazed at how many different levels there were.
yeah, it's,
I mean, it's kind of a hodgepodge, but
It
it's a neat, intriguing layout, to make it all work together.
well, that was the trick with it, but
Yeah.
I think it will serve well for a long time. It's a very stoutly built building.
Yeah.
And
Some of
that's-
those.
How they poured concrete like that in 1914 is what amazes me.
Some
Yeah.
of those walls in there that are exposed now.
That are that thick, you
You
mean?
think, oh my goodness, how in the world did they do that?
How long did you say it took, 2 weeks for them to break into the vault?
Into the cash vault, and that was poured later, but there was just so much rebar in there that they started by hand, and they ended up taking a door out to get a piece of machinery in there to be able to tear it out, and that still took 2 weeks with a piece of machinery. So by hand, they'd still be working on it, and it's been done now for about 2 months, so.
Nobody was breaking into it, that's
No,
for
the
sure.
door would have been the best option, we're trying to get in there, so.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Steve's not here, are you doing these
Yeah, I'll take care of
then?
this one.
Okay, so again, each year we have to discuss these actuarial recommended contributions, so Cody, you wanna walk us through that then?
Yeah, so, as the mayor said, every year, this is a requirement that we contribute to, the police pension fund and the fire pension fund. We always, at Steve's recommendation, go with the actuarial, recommended amount, which in this case, on the police pension fund, would be a contribution of $1,282,566. And on the fire pension fund would be $874,458. And those amounts will go into the 2024 fiscal year that will commence on May 1st of 2023. So again, we just do this about 6 months ahead of time, make sure that that's a number that we plug into the budget. This will be the last year of us contributing essentially to our own investment fund. If you recall, I believe 2 years ago, the state consolidated the police and fire pension funds into one fund. Going forward, that shouldn't change this process. We will still contribute to that. The hope from the state standpoint is the consolidation, consolidating all of those various downstate funds together will be that essentially the return on investment will be greater, and hopefully our contributions will be less, but that will remain to be seen as we go forward.
Do we need to prove the actual dollar amounts, or just the way this is worded here on the?
Well, I just went with the actuarial amounts, I guess you could say per that schedule, or you could plug in the actual dollar amounts if you are so inclined.
I'll move to approve the actuarial recommended contributions to the police fund, which is 1.282566 million. And the fire pension fund, which is $874,458 for fiscal year '24.
I'll second that.
Wonder how next year will turn out with the stock market and everything.
I don't know, 7% on this money this last year is pretty good. I don't know if we'll
Yeah, I'd say.
earn that going forward or not.
Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Okay. Okay, item 10F, Cody, Jessica, as you guys requested the last time that we did this health insurance renewal, tried to look at two or three, well, really, there's only two other options for us. And didn't include those here. They're so hard to compare apple to, almost impossible to compare apples to apples, but the math on the other two just simply does not work in our favor. More so the benefits, I think, are start to get a little wonky as far as deductibles and stuff like that. So this is what we're bringing to you, which I was quite pleased with. It's basically the exact same thing that we have now with Blue Cross Blue Shield. John, do you want to give them the good news? I mean, they already know it, but it says so right here.
Yeah, actually, the overall benefits went down just a very, very small amount because of the dental insurance went down, but the health insurance, the major portion of it, we were able to negotiate a pass on that. We are still, and hopefully your marble will be paid for maybe by Blue Cross. I should know tomorrow for sure, but we're trying to get a $30,000 contribution back to the city on the first bill that you guys could use however you want. So,
To be clear, when you say a pass in your vernacular means a
zero increase.
no increase.
No increase. So, and then we were also getting a change on the retiree benefits, which is going to save the city about $108,000. So, all in all, it's a decrease for probably about $110,000, $12,000.
So the other two that we looked at was, I always get this acronym wrong, LG.
The local government health plan through CMS, which is the only, the county, that's who the county uses. And then the other one is Hope Trust, which is a trust pool, a risk pool rather, that's made up of mainly local units of government, counties and states. They actually didn't end up bidding. They wanted more information and deadlines and that kind of thing. We need to get this done so open enrollment can start December 1st with the new plan taking up, or in this case, the existing plan renewing as of January 1. And the CMS plan, it's a little different because essentially if you look at the Blue Cross attachment there, we have single plus spouse, single plus children, and family. That's what our current benefit is, or our current choices are. Under the CMS plan, that gets reduced to 3 choices. And essentially under that plan, I think it's single plus a dependent, whether that's a spouse or a child, or a family plan. So that really that third level in our current plan is cut out, and what that causes is that person to have to go to the family plan, and they end up paying $200 or $300 more a month, and that's what kind of gave us pause on that in part. So, one of the age-old issues is we get a raise every year, but our health insurance goes up. So we're fortunate that that's not the case this year. We're keeping with our current insurance at the current price. So as a way to combat inflation, hopefully this will help a little bit to our employees.
I'll make a motion to approve the health insurance renewal, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Second.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? We still have a relatively, if not factually unhealthy group. This is a problem. This is why we can't go out on the open market and get ABC insurance company. I mean, we looked at these 2 options mainly because that's the only 2 groups that would really look at it, but
to that point, CMS doesn't look at our history. They just accept anyone that jumps on it, so, which is why they're happy to throw out their rates, because they're looking for folks our size. And that's one of the concerns as well. We would end up being one of the larger fish in that risk pool, based on, as you like to say, this is a retail plan off the shelf kind of thing. So, we'll never, we'll likely never be able to self-insure, just because of our exposures, and the overall unhealthiness of the group. No rhyme or reason why that's the case. But it's very difficult to kind of jump off the deep end on a wellness plan or something like that, because we're spending money to hopefully save money as far as if we have a wellness plan in place, maybe we won't have as many claims. I personally don't feel like that would be the case, but that's something that we can discuss going forward, whether a wellness plan makes sense for our group or not. Regardless, it's going to take, if we don't stick with CMS, it would take something like a CMS that doesn't look at our claims history to really be competitive with where we're at with Blue Cross.
At the end of the day, our claims experience has to go down significantly before we've got any other options. Poor John has listened to my broken record several times on there's gotta be something, some nuance that we can get or some new plan or whatever. And the employees that are upset, even though this is great news, in terms of not having an increase, but some other employers have lower insurance premiums and they don't understand why ours is higher. And at the end of the day, if you've got $4 million worth of claims every year, they're gonna charge you $4 million and something the next year for their own assumption of inflation and profit and these kinds of things. So we've just had very, very persistent high claim amounts, certainly since well before I was on the council.
And it's
boy, I wish
prescriptions as well.
Yeah, it's pretty much across the board, everything that's on there. So I sure wish I knew what the silver bullet is, but in terms of employees hearing this, or please understand, until we've got a different claims experience, it's not likely to change. We're not likely to get, and that would probably take a couple of years even with that, wouldn't it, before a carrier would go, okay, this is actually.
There's a trend.
Right, there's actually a trend here. They're not just a one-off type situation. Is that fair?
Yeah, yes, and it just seems like there's always one out there waiting in the wings to happen, and it's been unfortunate.
Yeah.
But.
Okay. Yeah, roll call.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Let's go ahead and do commissioner reports just to get this other stuff. Like I said, we'll need to go into executive session before we consider a couple of items in item 8 on the agenda. So who wants to go first? Who's got something good to say? Doug, anything
Sure.
good to say?
Sure. Steve and I, treasurer, have been kind of reviewing our investment strategy since the rates are up, and we've been through a lot of that. I don't think any final decisions have been made, but we're certainly going to take advantage of the higher interest rates. So probably more to report later.
Okay, good. Mr. Barwick.
Have the fire department report for October. Had 16 100 series fire calls. That's up from 10 last month. We had 17 rescue and EMS calls. Had 12 hazardous condition, no fire. 26 service calls. 13 good intent calls. 24 activated alarms. 1 special incident type. Total for October was 109 incidents. That compares to 72 that we had in September. So our calls were up quite a bit. Marion Police Department, city ordinance violations for the month of October were 56. Criminal or traffic citations were 211. 36 warrant arrests, 355 incidents reported, 159 traffic accidents, 6 DUIs. We had 1,824 dispatch calls, 1,855 911 calls, 4,026 non-emergency calls, and 279 ambulance calls. And that's all I have.
Mr. Stuckey?
Okay, from the last council meeting, water department report is we had 10 new service taps, 7 water leaks repaired, finished 2 water main relocation improvements, installed 2 new hydrants, and 5 meter pits were repaired. November, great start in November. Since the last meeting, the water tower went up on the east side of town. That went up live. We've been told that a person called into the water department and said it was this person's bucket list to watch a water tower being erected from top to bottom, so we hope we made him proud. So if you watched this weekend, those guys were up there painting in the nasty weather on Saturday on the top, which is crazy, but anyway, hopefully that'll be done probably in the next 10 days. Should be completely finished, I think. We were able to participate with the city along with Connect 360, the SIU fraternities, and other volunteers at the high school. The food drive, the food went very fast. The line was long, but very organized. Even though we had some people really work the process. We donated food to the Lighthouse Shelter at the end of that day, and they were very happy to have that as well. Thanks to everyone who turned out for the 13th annual Elks Chili Cook-Off. Congratulations to Quentin and Mike Hamilton, father and son, for being the winner. Weather was fantastic, a little breezy in the morning, but it slowed down and it was a nice day. Perfect day for chili. Starting tomorrow from 9 to noon, the Refuge Temple Church will be giving out free hams while supplies last. They're at 2201 West Main by the VA. Lots of things going on with the Very Merry Marion stuff around town. November 27th, our first ever Very Merry Holiday Lighted Parade will take place starting at 5:30. And that's going from the junior high to, is it Washington?
I believe so.
Something like that. So it'll go right through the square. So,
You know how many entries we have on that?
57.
Yeah, it's,
57.
Yeah,
It'll be
it-
impressive. So you may want to get your lawn chairs in place soon.
I got a preview of the police department's float over the weekend, and Marty Cameron just sent me a picture of junior high, or high school. There's people working pretty hard on it. So.
There is. I told a local DJ is going to be in that too, playing Christmas music on the flip book. Thank you to the street department for the use of that trailer, by the way. December 3rd, the Hub Holiday Hustle Run will take place. 10th, Pancakes and Pajamas. The 3rd and 4th, we have Drive-Through Santa. Carriage rides will be the 5th to the 11th. The Holiday Market on North Market Street will be 9th to the 11th. And Carnegie Library Story Walk is the 23rd to the 31st. So there's all kinds of stuff. If you've been around the square lately, you can see the progress up there. I know Carmen and I were discussing on Facebook today how thankful we were. She cautioned me that we should have turkeys first, Thanksgiving before Christmas, and I said we have plenty of turkeys around the square. So we're going on the Christmas decorations. So anyway, that's all we got. Trivia will be next meeting. So
Okay. Mr.
Yeah, streets, still putting the, what we call the Big Ditch Project, they're off Floyd Street, to the south. We rented a long stick track hole, so we're trying to get that cleaned out. That's a main gathering, venue for all the water coming through that end of town, so hopefully that'll help out and get a lot of the silt out of there, so. Fall cleanup ends this week. We appreciate everybody participating in that, and those crews that's been assigned to help, that's done a great job. Appreciate that. We've also worked with the Christmas lights and looking great downtown, as John mentioned. So, getting the snowplow trucks ready, getting the salt spreaders on the back, and start thinking about snow plows. And hopefully we don't have to use them, but we'll be ready in case we do. So, we sent street guys out to the cemetery to help trim the flat markers and for Veterans Day. They did a great job on that. The whole crew did. We appreciate that. So. Cemetery, we did have 16 burials in October, and I think cemetery is looking good for Veterans Day, so we appreciate everybody's help. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else under miscellaneous to discuss?
I have a question. Do we have an update on the skating rink, ice skating rink? Will it be open in December?
So You wanna talk to that?
Yeah.
They'll be here in the morning to start putting it together. It's a several, especially this first time, it's a several day process.
Yeah, so they're, the crew's coming in from the manufacturer to show our crews how to, put it up. That'll start tomorrow morning, bright and early, or it's supposed to be raining, I think, but, so they'll get that put up, likely to take 3 or 4 days to get everything right. It'll be 5 inches of ice. I get asked that question a ton, is it real ice? It's real ice. And the goal will be, assuming everything goes well this week, I will open bookings for skate rentals next Monday, and we'll be skating Friday, Black Friday. That'll be the first day, so we'll see. Stay tuned.
I think it'd be good if you were the first one to step foot on
He's been
the ice.
working on his triple gainer.
I wanna see it. I wanna see that. I'll pay money for that.
I'd like to see that too. Anybody know how to ice skate? Wanna learn?
I stayed at the Holiday Inn one.
Okay. Anything else under miscellaneous? Okay, I would make a motion that we enter into executive session to discuss property.
Second.
Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yeah.
Commissioner Steckland?
Yay.
Mayor Asher?
Okay. We will be back in here. It will likely take us a while, so just beware. Yep. All right, we're back in open session after a closed session meeting to discuss items F, G, and H. As you guys will recall, and the public some may recall, in the summer, we had contracted with a outfit to potentially auction the Sugar Creek Lake property. We had to delay that because of, matter of fact, some of these very issues, but just some of the things that came up with a sale of that magnitude, that size. I'm well aware this is controversial to some people, and there's a lot, I'm gonna have to wait till he gets done talking, I can't. I'm well aware that that's controversial to some people, and in my opinion, there's a whole lot of misinformation out there about it, and so these 3 items are some of those housekeeping things that before we could proceed with a sale that we needed to address. And so we intend to do that here. But first, what I want to do is ask Glenn Clarida to come up, and I know the council's aware of most of this information. I want the public to know as much as Glenn knows as it can. Get this on camera while we can, and Glenn literally knows more history on this than anybody else on the planet, and has been around this project and many others for a long time. So Glenn, just walk us through the history of the water woes back in the 80s and how this project came along. And then I think we're most interested in your advice and your opinion on where this stands, and I hope you can be succinct, and we depend on your counsel more than anybody else's on this stuff, so.
Well, it's, how much time do we have? I've got, you start from the 80s, that's about 35 to 40 years. How do I put that in 5 to 10 minutes?
Try.
About 5 seconds per year, apparently. I don't know.
There's gonna be, anyway, actually Marion's water woes started in the early to mid 80s. We had a 120 acre lake, furnishing water to, actually it was expanded in 1966 to 200 acres to supply water for the city of Marion. And Marion was a growing town, needed water supply was getting marginal sometimes. So we attempted to go to Crab Orchard Lake. We were turned down on that one. Then from Crab Orchard Lake, we went to Devil's Kitchen Lake. We tried to get water from there. After several months of experience working and trying, we got turned down on that one. And then we started looking at some of the big strip cuts. That didn't work. And there was some private developers trying to build a lake at Sugar Creek, and they came to Marion and said, would you take this project over? Well, we looked at it and evaluated it and said that that's a possible source of supply for the city. So that was in about 87, 88. So we started purchasing property, getting options in early part of 89. We got most of the land bought by 91, 92. And we went to the Corps of Engineers to get a permit, and they suggested that we do an environmental assessment survey, which we did. And we submitted to the Corps. They gave us a permit to build the lake. The Sierra Club took us to the federal court in Benton, and they overturned the permit. They said you did an environmental assessment, you should have done an environmental impact statement. So we hire a firm from Memphis, Tennessee, who was a specialist in that area. We put the EIS together. A year or two later, we submitted it to the Corps. They gave us a permit. Phil Gilbert was the judge at the time, and we started building a lake. We cleared 650 acres, and the Sierra Club appealed to the Seventh Circuit in Chicago, and they overturned the permit the second time. They said you need to do a few more modifications to your EIS. So we start the modifications, we go back to the Corps for the third time to get a permit. And by that time, the legal counsel says that we've had enough, we're not going to issue any more permits. So at that time, we were done with trying to get a lake built. We had to get a water supply. And in 1987, the month of November, we had about 30 to 40 days of water left in our city lake to supply. That's how close we would come to running out of water. At the same time, there was in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a change in the board at Wren Lake, and that became an option then. And we had to get a water supply. We couldn't get the lake built, so we made an agreement with Wren Lake, and they ran a 24-inch water line from Johnson City to Marion. And then we ran the city of Marion, then ran the 24-inch water line through town. They put a million-gallon ground storage tank in at the water plant, the old water plant, and we were buying water from Wren Lake about 2007, 2008. Now, if we had built the lake, it would have been about, in that time, about $36 to $38 million cost that would have gone to the at that time, 7,500 water customers, which would have been a tremendously high water bill. And by then getting water from Wren Lake, we got a good rate on it, and we got a water supply that gave us all we needed. If we'd have stayed on the old city lake, we had been on restricted status, which means that we couldn't get a permit to make any new water main extension. And that would have killed the growth of Marion. So we had to go to get a source of supply. Today's expanding the cost from 2096 to 2000 up to 2022. We would probably be looking today, in today's dollars, to build that lake, put a new water plant in, probably looking at 50 to 60 million. And to prorate that over 8,500 customers, you would have phenomenal water bills. So the chances of getting that lake built, we've got the Wren Lake water supply. I was told by Mr. McHugh at the Corps of Engineers in Louisville, he said before you even attempt to try to build a lake, come and meet with us first before you do anything. And he said they have not issued a permit for a water supply reservoir in the last 22 years. And the chances of getting one is slim. So to keep the land down there, Marion, with the customer base, cannot afford the water plant, the dam, the lake, the raw water line between Marion and town. They can't afford that. Water rates would be prohibitive. Rim Lake has 50,000 plus customers to distribute that water rate over. So I see no reason of trying to keep the property down there and Marion to build a lake. Red Lake has turned us down twice for buying the land and going with it. So my strong recommendation would be that we go ahead and sell the land as proposed. Even if we had gotten that, we cleared 650 acres after the second permit. If we had gone on doing that, it was probably a blessing in disguise that we didn't go ahead and build that, because we would have had some very, very high water bills. Any questions?
So Glenn, just to clarify and make sure that I understand this correctly, today, in today's dollars, it would be cost prohibitive for us as a city to tackle that project simply because we could not have a customer base large enough to be able to pay that debt off.
No, we couldn't.
None whatsoever.
No.
So it
Well,
really is doing us no good simply because it's not reality for us.
No.
I mean, it would be great if we could.
Now, the only person that has the customer base to support that would be Red Lake.
Yeah.
And as of today's time, hasn't been an option.
Yeah.
We tried.
I know there's been concern with some of the drought in the Mississippi and stuff lately, but what's the capacity of Run Lake again, gallon wise?
The lake is in the multi-millions. The capacity would be at the plant. The plant right today has got 27 million gallons per day capacity. They're pumping out on an average day 18 to 19 million. So they've got an 8 million gallon day reserve capacity in their plant. The lake is multi-million in capacity. So that's really not an issue. There's a lot of history in essence of time I didn't go over, but Marion has had a water problem from 82 to 2007 when we hooked on to Ren Lake. It was always a struggle.
If there were, without naming specific bodies of water or anything like that, but if there were some looming crisis, and I know there's those that want to say that we've got this crisis or another coming, which may turn out to be the case, I don't know, but would there be another source for us to potentially go to that would be cheaper, faster, more efficient, so to speak, than even if we could get a permit, which you've established we can't, but even if we could build that lake, is there some other alternative you think at this point that might make a whole lot more sense to pursue?
Lake Egypt has some reserve capacity since they closed down one of the big turbines down there. That's a possibility. It hasn't been discussed, but that's a possibility. They've got 2 million plus a day reserve capacity that they're not using. Another one is Devil's Kitchen Lake. Always go back to that. It's much, much easier and simpler to go to an existing reservoir than to try to build a new one with today's environmental claims that goes against it. And what is one of the radio stations calls itself the Big Lake Country? We've got all these lakes and you can't get water out of them.
your knowledge, is there any looming crisis or shortage of water? 61.2 billion is what I think the gallon storage of Wren Lake is.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, it's delimited at the water plant,
Water
is what you
plant.
gotta be concerned with, but there's billions of gallons of water in that lake.
The reservoir itself is not even an issue. It could double or triple what they're doing now.
It's the capacity of the water plant
Yes,
is what produces the volume going out,
that's
more
correct.
or less. So,
They made an expansion on that plant about 5-6 years ago. And they went from 18 million gallons a day to 27 million. And they're pumping on an average, peak days 19 to 20. So they got 7 to 8 million gallons a day reserved. What else is helping or hurting, I don't know which way. Several of the coal mines are closing, which is giving them more reserve capacity.
Not to mention, we lie between two of the largest rivers in the world too. that's
Yeah.
within-
Mississippi and Ohio.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe not water right out of the river, but the groundwater around the river
Mm-hmm.
would be a possible source too.
Yeah. But to try to build our own lake is not even possible, or anything's possible. That we would have water bills that nobody could afford. You take 45, 50 million to prorate that over 8,500 customers. You don't have to be a math major to figure that one out.
and we've looked into the possibility of getting grants and whatnot. The size of this project is, I think it's safe to say that there's not that amount of money out there that could be tapped into, whether it be a low interest loan or, free money, if you will, excuse me, from the federal government or any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Sure, it's possible, but not likely.
Well, what hurts us is we're damming up what they call a free-flowing stream. And that really activates the environmentalists. And anytime you have opposition like that, it's difficult to get your grants. Very difficult. Now, if we were building a road or something, you wouldn't get near the opposition if you're gonna, what they call a free-flowing stream. Sugar Creek is a natural free-flowing stream. So if you kept the property, who's gonna buy it and build a lake? It's gonna be very difficult.
That environmental impact statement, did it talk about, or I guess discoverings with threatened and endangered species
Oh,
as
yeah.
well?
The one that drew the most attention was the least brook lamprey. That was a small fish, as far west as it comes would be Illinois. And they're plentiful in Pennsylvania, but they're rare in Illinois. And they found some least brook lamprey down there, they being IDNR. And it was odd. They would go down by themselves and they would find species. I told them I'd like to go down there with them sometime and make sure that I've seen them when they catch it. And they worked and worked, and put, stream is about this deep, and they put mask on, snorkel. They worked and worked and worked, and they never did find any. But when I'd leave, they'd find them.
You were just scaring the fish, Glenn.
Okay, so. Again, this information is stuff we've been wrestling with for a long time. But I felt like I wanted to get Glenn on the record with his opinion of it. The most interesting thing I found, you said just then, I'm not sure, until recently I've heard you say, is that it's questionable whether we could have afforded it back then, much less
looking at it in hindsight, it was probably a blessing that the Seventh Circuit turned us down. Because we would have had a very, very high water bill in Marion.
In recent years, there's been a focus on seismic too, and I can imagine there'd be a lot of seismic design parameters in that dam
Oh, yeah.
that maybe we wouldn't have had 30 years ago, but now I'm sure they would, you can't flood people out downstream, you know.
We had to do a breach, what they call a breach assessment survey. What would happen if the dam was breached, and what would this affect, how this would affect the downstream people? So
I also found it intriguing, Glenn, and I never knew this, but even though we got the permit from the Corps to build the lake, we still needed to have IDNR's blessing and approval to build the dam.
yeah, we got both of them.
So it was one feeding off of the other,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we couldn't do one until we had the dam built. And I never knew that.
Oh, yeah.
And the same is true for today, right?
If you have an impoundment greater than 5 acres, you have to do your dam, assessment survey and your plans if you just build a small structure with IDNR.
Mhm.
You have to get a permit.
You've got that letter.
Yeah, and
And before IDNR gave it, we had to put an 8-inch pipe there that flowed all the time to maintain low flow water in the downstream stream. So that pipe was going at 8 inches in dry weather. You had to open that valve up and let the water flow downstream all the time to maintain low water quality.
And I kind of felt like this, you know, I guess it's amazing what you find when you dig a little bit and do some research, and Mike, thank you for finding this, but basically, when we got to the point where we had to make that decision, are we gonna go ahead or are we not? The mayor wrote a letter, Mayor Butler wrote a letter to IDNR basically saying, we're not gonna renew our permit to build the dam.
We couldn't.
Because he knew at that time that it probably was not gonna be feasible or possible for us to go down that path.
Well, we couldn't renew the permit to build we had no permit from the Corps
Right,
to build a lake so we could have a dam.
right,
So he had no choice but to say, it'd be pointless to renew the permit when we couldn't build a lake.
yes. Yeah,
And it was obvious, then we were getting close to restricted status, and that would have stifled Marion, we'd have been dead.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't have put a water main in town anywhere. So if some industry or somebody wanted to come to town and needed a 12-inch water main extension, we couldn't do it. So we're like, pull the chestnuts out of the fire.
and economically, it was, I guess like you said, it was a blessing in disguise that we got turned down.
It was.
Because we took the path to go get Wren Lake's water and make that happen. And in my opinion, this has allowed us to see the continued growth in Marion simply because we have a water source
If
that,
somebody comes in and needs to use 500,000 gallons a day, we've got the capabilities to
Yes.
do it.
exactly,
That's 500,000 a day.
yeah.
I've talked to Wren Lake, and we've had some of these RFPs in town. Industries are using that much water. Wren Lake says you can get it. And that is a big bonus for us.
So in a nutshell, back in the 80s, we truly had an emergency needing more water,
Oh, big time.
and we were still denied a permit. Fast forward to 2022, that emergency doesn't exist. So the thought of even getting a permit now,
The Sierra
It's not gonna
Club,
happen.
Sierra Club kept saying, you don't need this because you can go to Wren Lake and get all the water you need.
Right.
That was their argument.
One thing, I'm not sure I ever sent this to you guys. This is a graph of our daily water use, or usage of not daily, millions of gallons per year over time. I can only go back. Brent got this together for me through 2002. The ups and downs, I don't know, can you see this? This little line is the trend line, which is just the big picture, which is only to say we're using about 210,000 gallons of water per day less than we were 10 years ago. That's probably because we fixed a lot of leaks in our system, to be honest with you. It's not that we have less water usage, but the concept that we've got ever increasing water demand does not seem to be the case. And that it
Where we
creates
set down, about 3 million gallons a day, or?
No,
No.
1.6 or 7.
1.7.
Yeah.
We used to use 2 million a day.
Yeah. And Glenn, I wanted to check one thing. I had done, and I think you'd done, I don't know if you have your notes there, or if you're doing this, sounds like you're doing it from memory, but when I took your initial numbers and tried to put in real dollar terms over what that would mean, you know, so many of our water customers out of that 8,700 are minimum bills, they're minimum water users. And numbers I was coming up with is that would at least, if we could build a lake, and then we did, based on that 40, 50 million, $60 million, whatever, I think I used 50 million, that the minimum water bill would at least double.
Oh, we'd be lucky just doubling.
So, I mean, that's the other thing that I just find so unpalatable in the whole conversation, is that that's a sure, we talk about, so much has been said about the lake needing to be built for economic growth. I can also tell you that doubling or tripling water bills is also a surefire way to not
Let's stop and think about one of the biggest employers in Marion, Pepsi-Cola. And they use 2 or 3 million a month. What do you think that would do to them? They would probably put them not out of business, but they'd get hit really hard.
Well, I'm glad Pepsi's here, but I'm more concerned about the person on a fixed income that would slay their budget. I mean, it'd be nice to have our own electric plant too, but at what cost?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
And there's just so much infrastructure involved. It's not just going down there and building a lake. We gotta get the pipes here to be able to treat it. The infrastructure cost is astronomical.
You're talking about, I think earlier, you were talking about roughly $1 million a mile for a 24-inch pipeline.
Yeah.
So you're talking about $11 million just to get a pipeline from the lake to town.
Right.
And you need to be, it's gonna take a new water plant. That old water plant can't be,
Right.
it would take a ton of money to get it going.
And that would need to be built down there.
You wanna build it down there so you're pumping treated water to town
Right.
to be able to sell to someone else on the way into town.
Right, exactly. Now granted, we could gain some customers,
Possibly.
but not nearly enough to
Oh, no.
offset that cost in the water bill.
No, not even close.
That $1 million a mile, that was just for materials, so you'd probably double that for installation.
It was $65 a foot was the price for 24-inch PVC class 200. So you got-
Installed or just for the pipe?
Just for the pipe, that's just material cost.
Use a rule of thumb, you double that to install something, so, you know.
Right, it's roughly $40 a foot for labor. So you're looking at $100 a foot.
We could get 15 or 20 million in it pretty quick, just getting the line down.
Oh, then you gotta get a big raw water pump station down there to pump the water from the plant. You probably need a 6 or 7, 8 million gallon a day plant. And you're looking at probably 15, 16 million just for the plant.
Glenn, would it be safe to say that in the event of a crisis, or in the event that we needed more water and decided to look at other avenues, is it safe to say that there are cheaper options for us to get water? In essence, Devil's Kitchen, some of the other water reservoirs around here, if we were to need to expand or get an alternative source, because I understand the fact that if something happens to Ridden Lake, what is Southern Illinois gonna do? I get that concept, completely understand. But aren't there other sources out there that we could tap into
In terms of a crisis, Devil's Kitchen should be used.
to solidify that, okay, we've got options here?
Yeah,
It could be Devil's Kitchen. It could be wherever else, or whatever else impoundment that we could get to and get water from cheaper than what it would be cost, or what it would cost to build our own lake, if you will.
the quality of water from Crab Orchard would be poor,
Yeah,
but you at least have water. And that's a big, big lake.
yeah. But Devil's Kitchen, on the other hand, is a deep lake, a clear lake,
Oh, yeah,
so that's an option as well.
it's a very good option.
Yeah, so I guess in thinking of maybe the big picture, I wanna make sure, wanna be clear, cost versus building our own lake down at Sugar Creek versus cost of finding another water source or a different water source. Not saying that we're abandoning Wren Lake by any means, but in the event something should happen to Wren Lake, we've got cheaper options.
Getting to the source is one thing, we've gotta get a water treatment plant going too.
Yeah,
You get source is just one step in the ladder, because then we get the water, that water plant would take a ton of money to get it going again.
yeah.
So we're just getting the source of water is halfway home.
But there are cheaper options other than building
Oh,
our own
yeah.
lake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And if you built that, like I said, if we was in a drought period, it may take 2 years to fill it up.
well, and that's something you gotta consider too. I mean, how long does it take a lake that big to fill up?
Oh,
To where you can use it.
And how long does it take to build it?
Yeah,
And then you gotta put the pipeline in, you gotta build a water plant.
right. I mean,
So you look at-
theoretically, that could take 4 or 5 years.
4 to 5 years,
to-
by the time
to
you get
fill up.
water, you're just pumping water into your system,
Yeah.
the time you started building the lake.
It's just, to me, it's just an awfully big hurdle to jump over. And I just, as a council member of my own, having my own opinion, it may have been a good idea at one time, may have been a pipe dream, I don't know. But to me, there are better options available to us today than what a new city lake would provide.
Much better,
Yeah.
much better. And I've been involved in it from the day one, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the indifferent.
Yeah,
And like I said, it was probably a blessing in disguise when we got turned down by the Seventh Circuit,
yeah,
because it enabled us to get a good source of supply at a much cheaper rate. Red Lake's got one of the cheapest wholesale rates of water of any of the big customers in Southern Illinois.
And still the biggest obstacle is getting the permit that we haven't been able to get for 30-some years.
Getting the permit and keeping it's a hurdle. We got 2 permits.
Yeah, keeping it.
Yeah. The only person that can, company, the entity that can feasibly build that lake and distribute their cost to a large customer base would be like Wren Lake or Saline Valley Conservancy District. Some big, huge entity that's got thousands of customers.
that has the customer base where they could spread that debt out.
Spread it, they got 50,000
Yeah,
plus customers.
right.
We've got 8,000 plus.
I was gonna say, John, what do we have? Almost 85, 9,000, 8,500. And even if we were to pick up a modest amount, that's still not enough to spread that,
No,
debt
Not even close.
over a long period of
My
time.
strong recommendation is that we kept the land for 20, 30 years. We haven't had any success. We've tried to work with Wren Lake for 2 years plus, and they backed off, we don't have a source. What's the land doing for the city? Nothing.
It's one of those assets that we have that really is not doing us any good. To me, it's tied up for, honestly, it's an asset we don't really need to have, in my opinion.
Probably liability in a lot of.
In a lot of ways, yes. Any other questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Well, I should say, do you have any? No. So Wendy, you're up, and then let's walk through F, G, and H and item 8. I know this first one, it's just a few things that keep coming up during this process and review, and this one was essentially this particular former owner of the land had a right to rescind the transaction, is the way that was worded, right?
Yeah, so in going through, obviously, we had to have a title policy to try to put together. We had made the decision to try to sell the land as a single piece. That made the most sense. Per the advice of the realtor, that's what they thought might bring in the best return for the city on this. However, in reviewing, going through the title policy, which took a very long time, there was, about 80 different parcels, Glenn, I think that the city had to purchase, so you're talking plus or minus 80 deeds, contracts. They were all involved in this. The majority of them are basically the same. However, we have come across a few here and there, a small handful, that have some very specific language in them that have created somewhat of an issue that we are trying to resolve, so that we can have clear title, so that a potential future buyer of the land will not have issues. One of those is the contract with Edward and Margaret Simons. So at the time that the city originally purchased the land from them, there was a special provision in their contract, and in their contract alone, that essentially said if a lake was not built within 10 years, that they had the right to fully rescind the contract and basically get all of their property back. The city gets its money back, they get their property back, everybody's square even. It's always been the Simons' intent to see a lake built. They've stayed in touch with the city and with Glenn over the course of the years because that's what they would prefer. However, it's just become a realization that that's not gonna happen. So they would rather have their land back than not, and so that's what this is about. It's a contractual term that the city agreed to back when they originally purchased the land from the Simons, and so that's what we're trying to take care of on that one.
So Wendy, this particular parcel, Simon's parcel, they had a 10-year limit on it. At what point, when did we hit that 10-year mark?
That would have probably been 99 is when that 10-year mark would have been hit.
Okay, so they've been patiently waiting for 20 years plus.
Yes.
Well, it's my motion, if we're ready for that, to approve ordinance 3846, directing the sale of surplus property back to Edward and Margaret Simons.
Second.
Okay, any other questions of Wendy on this one? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Berwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Item G and H, I guess, are kind of tied together, and they're related, but Wendy, just walk us through this resolution with the Cast family, please.
So essentially, the city purchased land from Helen and Leon Cast and from Samuel and Sue Baker Cast. Helen and Leon were the parents. Samuel and Sue Ellen were the children. Well, they weren't children at the time, but they were the children of Helen and Leon. So at the original, when the city originally bought property, we bought about 62.5 acres from Helen and Leon and 162 or so acres from Samuel and Sue Ellen. As part of, again, they had special language written into their contract that the city agreed to back when they entered into these contracts and, in the late 80s, that essentially said that they were agreeing to sell this land to the city. However, they were given a privilege to farm the land until such time as a lake is built. So they have essentially been farming that land for the last 30 plus years. Obviously they are wanting to try to retain as much of that as possible. They've maintained the land, they've cared for the land. That wouldn't necessarily be an issue. However, the original deed with Helen and Leon Cast specifically states that they are only selling to the city all of the land below the 504. Now, the 504, which Glenn could probably explain what that means a lot better than I can, but the 504 was the contour line that we were purchasing land to for the purpose of the lake. So the deed from Helen and Leon essentially said they were deeding us all of their land below the 504 in this particular area. It has come to our attention that there is 7.698 acres above the 504 that, because no lake is going to be built, it's not rendered inaccessible or useless and therefore not contemplated under the original deed. So that 7.698 acres essentially needs to go, if no lake is going to be built and it's become clear that that's not going to happen, that 7.698 acres needs to go back to the Cast family. So that being said, there's also been a dispute about the farming privileges. Obviously, we've been trying to negotiate with them. We've been trying to resolve that. We're trying to prevent litigation. We're trying to, again, clear the title. This has been an issue for the title company. It's just one of those things of what the Casts have explained is what they're really looking for is the farmland that they've been maintaining and farming for the last 30 years. And so that's what this agreement contemplates. Now, there is a contingency that I would add. There is a new survey that is going to be done. The Cast family has agreed to pay for the full price of the survey that could potentially add up to about 10 more acres onto the agreement that you guys have reviewed for tonight.
It's my understanding that if this goes through, they're gonna sign an agreement doing away with the right to farm the land.
Yes.
If we don't have that agreement, we can't get title insurance to a potential seller.
That's what we've been told, yes. We've been told that because of the poorly drafted language of those farming privileges and the way that was designed, and that because no lake has been built, the title company has basically said they will not insure those parts of the land out of fear of potential future litigation.
So what was the total acreage that we bought from the Cass family? 60 plus?
162 plus 62.5, so
Okay.
about 120, 130 acres
What we're selling back to them,
would be approximately 30 acres, maybe 30 and a half acres, I think at the most, roughly.
so basically everything that we're acting on tonight is above that 504?
No, so some of the land that we would sell back to the Cass family is below the 504.
Okay.
Now, the
That's the
7.6, the
town
7 point,
area they were
yeah.
looking to retain.
that 7.698 is above the 504, that's what started this whole conversation with
Okay.
them.
Okay.
But the additional acreage, the additional farmable land that they're looking to get is below the 504.
Okay.
So
So,
one of it is above the 496 pool elevation,
yeah,
but it's below the 504.
okay. And they're currently farming all of that 30 acres?
Yes.
They're farming a good portion of it, yes.
Okay.
questions? So that's,
So, let me make sure that I'm clear, and hopefully, maybe I'm not the only dumb one in the group here, but item G is an agreement with the casts to what?
So item G is an agreement for the resolution of the land, so that's essentially where we say that we will agree to not only give you this 7.698 above the 504,
Right,
but we also agree, to give you the additional tillable farmland in exchange for you acknowledging and also agreeing that any other rights of access farming to any other areas of land not contemplated by this are terminated, and that they would not have any future, not only the current Cass family, but any heirs would not have any future claims or,
so that would clear our title for insurability as far as farming purposes go.
that is the hope, yes.
Okay.
You say give, but they're paying for it, right?
Yes, they'll be paying for it, we're not, we're not giving it away for free.
Okay.
the
Yeah,
way I would explain this resolution, or the way I was thinking of it is, this is laying out the legal history and the dispute resolution steps, not only for for us and the cast, but also laying that out to the title insurance policy.
Yes.
And you've sent this to the title insurance policy.
I have, yes.
right.
For their review, to make sure that, I mean, this would be a filed thing with the deed, right?
Yes,
So it's more just laying out a little bit more detail than what she has here.
Yeah.
Just for everybody to understand exactly what's taken place and what the issues were and such. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that I was understanding it right. Thanks for the clarification. Because it can get complicated.
Oh,
yeah, and the hope is that this would resolve any and all current and future disputes between the city of Marion and the Cast family concerning property in the Sugar Creek area.
Right. And per the contract that was originally signed, they had the option to buy back?
No.
Or no? They
No.
did not? Okay.
No, that was never in their contract,
But they did have the right to farm it
yes,
Until the lake is built.
until the lake was built, right?
yes.
And that's, in reality, that's the dispute that we're trying
Yeah.
to correct.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the nuance in their contract that we're trying to resolve at this point, is that the grant of the farming privilege,
Right.
how to resolve that issue.
So we vote on these separately, obviously.
Okay.
And I make a motion to approve the agreement for the resolution of the land with Samuel Cass and his heirs.
I would second that.
And is that contingent on the amendment with the new survey being?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, I just wanna make sure we were all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just for clarity, that amendment would be, they are paying for the.
They are
survey.
paying for the full cost of the survey, with a cap at up to an additional 10 acres added on, but no more than that.
Correct.
Depending on what the survey says.
And that will depend on what the survey says.
Correct.
Yeah.
For a second.
Yes. I
Any
second.
other questions? Wendy, Glenn, despite how, all this turns out, whether we do ultimately end up selling the land or not, this is incredibly detailed, difficult stuff to go through, and I appreciate both of you for sticking with it. It is consumed you guys for a long time. That's just a polite way to put it. It's consumed you, and you've got a grasp of it. It's hard for lay people to understand some of this stuff. I appreciate the work that both of you that you've put in with it. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Okay, so now, that's the resolution stating what we're doing, why we're doing it, laying it out for all parties to inspect and understand it. This, to sell real property, we have to, by statute, declare it as surplus property. And,
It has to be done by ordinance.
and has to be done by ordinance, so it's dovetails into the other thing, one precedes the other, but that's what, this is, with the same caveat as there may be an additional,
Up to 10
Up to
acres
10
added,
acres.
depending on what the new survey reveals.
and that's my motion. Pass ordinance 3847, directing the sale of surplus property to Samuel L. Cass.
I'll second that.
Any further questions on this? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, that brings us back to the end of the agenda. I'll ask again, just in case there's anything else that somebody thought of. Under miscellaneous, anything else to come before the council? Likewise, my compliments to Wendy and Glenn, but thank you guys for sticking through all this. I know there's been a lot of one-on-one conversations trying to dig deep and understand these issues, 30-plus-year-old issues, and how to go about resolving them. So thank you for your attention and attention to detail and asking great questions so that we all can understand it. So, all that said, sorry for the long meeting, a lot of stuff to do tonight. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn and Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.